to get a coffee, driving to get a coffee. I wanted to give a lecture at the same time because I find the way that ideas are positioned in my inner realms right now are unique, and it's like I gotta share it now, or the texture of this kind of moment leaves, right? So I want to speak about arrival and excuse me. I forgot to begin this lecture properly. In the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful. I am someone who believes this reality has a system admin, and it's the most important thing to notice in this simulation, this existential simulation. That means there are people who believe the world is true, and there are people who believe the truth beyond the world, that this world is not the ultimate reality. It's a simulated testing zone, actually. But anyways, within a divine surveillance state. But I wanna zoom in again on the title, not to go too far, not to stray away too far. But I want to say it like this: that when I say, sorry guys, when I say arrival of peace in the madness of human impatience, this lecture wants the viewers to kind of zoom in on that moment in life, or those kind of moments in life where you realize humanity displays an impatience, and this impatience is in a strange way consequentially anti-human. Okay. So the emphasis or the point in this lecture is I gotta make it real, like how there's human impatience and how it has led to madness on earth, right? And how in some sense a type of peace arrives for that madness. And to actually explain to you about what do you call it? Guys, it's way harder to give a lecture when you're driving. It's like you're doing it with 50% of your attention. Anyways, where I'm going with this is that human impatience is like there's 8 billion different human beings, 8 billion different human brains, and everybody has a different DNA, and everybody's outlook on life, the meaning they give to life, is personal to them, and everybody's kind of starting from their own world. So impatience is like the mind has lived ahead and has seen an outcome, and as the body is not following up that outcome fast enough. That means you're like driving, right, and you're rushing somewhere to get to somewhere, and in that moment anybody who's in front of you is like a terrible driver. They're all slow drivers, so it's really fascinating how much a concept changes when the context shifts in accordance to either new information, or discovery of that which was but was not known. So the madness of human impatience is that our expectation on how reality should happen is way more intense than how reality is happening. An inner event is more intense than an outer event. So this leads to madness. Why? Why does this lead to madness? Sorry guys, just give me a second. This leads to madness because the impatience, in some sense, enforces a different pattern, geometrical pattern into the moment. What does that mean? The person who is, like, let's say late for work and is driving and some car is like unnecessarily slow in front of them, or they're not driving properly, that person honks. And that honking is the madness of impatience. That means if you rush things, you're like, why did I suddenly become so evil? Because you wanted something from the moment rather than actually going along with the actual flow of the moment. You see, there's an external server, like there's an external reality, which we're a part of, okay? And this external reality where all of us are in is public. It's like a public place. But your mind is like a private place. And when in that private place you discover the divine, that's when the concept of sacredness arises. When we look at the human experience, impatience to understand has led to the most famous isms. Do you know? And in some sense, it's like we're giving everybody freedom of mind and of thought and speech. Yet at the same time, within that freedom, people can choose to not be free or choose to manipulate. And that's the real challenge of reality, that you have these 8 billion humans on this earth. They're each in their own meaning, own universe of meaning, own world of meaning, right? And if they are impatient with the outer realms, if their inner realms, the soul wants its inner realm, wants the outer realm to match up to the inner realms like quickly, it tends to be too heavy of a moment. For me personally, moments where I have been the most egotistical are moments where I've acted like the owner of the moment as a thought. Like there's so many people on this planet, and in human interactions, it is usually the case that all conscious agencies are trying to experience their being in a more advanced way. For me, I'm like, what is everybody doing? They're advancing their lives. Okay, now then this brings up the question of what is the most advanced life. If human beings have impatience when it comes to driving, how are we going to reach that point where, how do I say it, like, for example, it's a battle of whose meaning does the context of the world walk in. Okay, that means whose world are we really in, and what is that ultimate agency that gives meaning? For me, it was a little bizarre because I'm like, wait a minute, so you're telling me I can live my life, and in whatever way I live this life, my actions, let's say I think they're good, I think they're like, let's say bad or whatever, but at the end of it, it's not up to me to decide what the true value of my actions are. The true values of my action, the system admin knows. So, first, sorry guys, I just ordered, some coffee heading home to like park the car and then fulfill, destiny of this lecture. Really what I'm trying to say here is that there's a type of madness and there's a type of peace that will resolve that madness But we need to first understand the problem before the solution's meaning is accessible. All right, guys, mission accomplished. I have in some sense secured the cup of coffee. All right, all right. This lecture is an interesting one. It's like, hey man, what are you talking about? It's like nothing, man. I'm just talking about, how the quality of human beings being impatient leads to a madness that is acting as a counter human force. And how do you get a species to be patient? And how do you really get a species to change? And you might like find this hilarious, but I'm someone who researched like how great movements happen, and they usually happen with a story. There's like some visionary who comes and says, "Yo, how come things aren't happening this way?" Everybody's like, "Whoa, we didn't even realize that way existed," you know? Man, they're like, "What is life? An opportunity to take everything so seriously that it's not serious anymore." Can you imagine? Can you imagine a world that can't laugh at itself? That's a bizarre world, you know? So, to really get to the essence of this, guys, first we have the notion of peace and madness. Okay, and madness, when I hear that term, I'm like, oh my God, did somebody say chaotic attribute of a moment's existence? Like, it's chaos. And what chaos is the opposite of organization. It is meaninglessness. Do you understand? You're like this unknown life force. You're trying to live your life in accordance to a certain order, where in a chaotic place, you know? And this is what I haven't seen any like guest, like any speaker on reality to come and say, "Hey guys, this is a crazy place." like yeah, we sit in a coffee shop, drink our coffees while animals are like hunting other animals in the forests. It's like no, just because we stepped out of the food chain doesn't mean we stopped the food chain. We just domesticated reality. That's the whole thing. They've domesticated the person. Do you know that means in the same way like a domesticated cat is different to like, let's say a wild cat, in a mountain or something. In the same way, human beings have been domesticated to fear not acting in accordance to the cultural programs before them that were here before them. That's like, I'm pretty much saying, could human understanding be a giant misunderstanding? Could it be that we have limited the meaning and value of reality just to the human idea, be in ignorance to all the possible ways that intelligence can be present in this realm? Because to conclude the nature of a reality, one must have traveled that whole reality. Do you know? That means just because you're born on Earth, does that mean you got to know Earth? Like how many moments exist that you will never know they exist like that? That's the fascinating thing about being alive, and there being a sort of relationship between the known, the domains of the halls of knowledge, and the unknown. You know, the unknown is awareness prior to prior to an organized identity. So right now, for example, my body is here. I'm physically existing. But is my body talking to you? Are like my atoms talking to you? Are my cells like talking to you? Or regardless of the formed position, there is a force, and this force, it's like an unknown force, identifies with known modes of reality and chooses what it can do. The question is about peace being an antidote for chaos. Or in some sense, we rather be in a peaceful environment than a chaotic environment. So impatience leads to chaos. And now, because we want an ordered environment, we have to wonder about the opposite of that chaos. You know, for a long time I wondered, why do we have minds? And I realized, to capture the moment in different angles. That's why we have minds. So the world can animate. That's why we're being intelligent right now as beings. What intelligence is doing is different than what the laws of nature are doing. We are by far one of the most unnatural creatures in nature. And unnatural meaning that a natural being is defined by its natural environment. For the longest time, the environment defined you. The human species is like the first species who started defining the environment and started to recreate the world subjectively. And now we're raised in that. We are all raised in that subjective world as individuals that have identity, but the depth of really what's actually going on. Some moments are just deeper. To me, it became clear in the pursuit of clarity that I was kind of bewildered by the mere sense of like, wait a minute, we don't know where we are. And they're like, no, man, you're on Earth in the Milky Way galaxy. Do you know? In the cosmos. And I'm like, okay, aside from you just generating some sounds right now, do you know where are we really? And when you realize the massive scale of the unknown, something changes. You can't be the same known idea. It's like the moment you notice the context of knowledge is not known, you're like, wait a minute, you're telling me all these teachers, all these people who in some sense have showed off what they know, they've done it in an unknown world as an unknown force. How noble is it? It's one of the mysteries of reality. To me, it seems to be role oriented. To me, this existence seems to be directed. That means just like how a film is directed, this existence is directed. Okay, but the director is not on the stage. And the actors are realizing that they don't have to just method act. They don't have to just completely, totally believe they're a character. You know, they can in some sense be the awareness to a character at different elevations. The complexity of acting is very it's very fascinating. I think something that film directors should ask, you know, their cast, those who they cast, is what is your process to create that character and to bring that character to life? In relation to the context of this lecture, what is the process of bringing the human idea into meaning, or giving me, or finding meaning to the human idea? And I'm telling you, like, a child can be born in this world, look at this world and be like, oh my God, look at how many books there are in the library, look at how many things there are I don't know. Do you know? But in reality, we realize our ancestors did not per se, it's very hard to say this, but it's like if you ask, did our ancestors find truth, the answer is yes and no. They found a true state, yet they conveyed the meaning of that state through generated medium. That means I reached a point where I'm like, wait a minute, am I finding meaning or am I generating meaning? Which is one of the most fascinating questions. Because if you are generating meaning, whew. Sorry guys, finally parked the car. These driving episodes are like, it's possible to give a lecture while driving or walking. Do you know? Alright, let me see if I could get some music in the background. For me, guys, I do understand when Nietzsche said, I don't know, something in the lines of like, the person who knows their why can bear anyhow, can go through anyhow. Something like that. Okay. Okay. I don't get it. Why is this not playing the sound? Okay, there we go. So, to now dive into the lecture. You know, sometimes what people call thinking to me is staring into a world and wondering what has happened so far, what is happening, and what will happen. And when the past and present become boring because they loop, the future stands there reminding you of different views. How this world has happened so far, where it has in some sense brought us, the might of the evolutionary stance of the human being at a time in 2025 where the species is still self-worshipping. And so what was greed? It was something that would become obscure because the might of human responsibility and human honor surpasses just the self. The human species is designed to honor that which is beyond itself. That means out of all the species on this earth, we were the ones that have the greatest chance and opportunity to make contact with higher intelligence. And so the role of man is clear. That means we found ourselves first in the natural world, and then we in some sense started doing our own thing, and it became an unnatural human civilization. Do you know that it has a nostalgia of nature? And so, what it means to be human now is to be an awareness to reality's structure. Do you know, survival is a structuralist game. Intelligence, even the structures deepen. And so the true question comes that if we are honest, like just take this in, I'm telling you, like, yeah, let's say everyone who listens to my lectures, you're all honest people, imagine. Okay? But honestly, if I ask you, do you know what is going on in this world? If the answer is yes, you haven't understood the problem deeply. Because there is no yes. We are limited beings, positioned in a limited place. Do you know? And I'm like, wait a minute, you're telling me the system admin, when it designed us with such immaculate consideration and architecture. Like when you look at how the human body's designed, you're like, this is something that takes a lot of Like if a human being was to replicate in an android the exact functions of a human body, that would be something that would take so much time and consideration that it feels like it's an intelligent action. So the design of our biological existence is the proof of an intelligent creator, an intelligent consideration to reality. So to me, it's strange that the creator was like, it's okay, you can see, like the sophistication, complexity of nature, and the human body. But when it comes to seeing the edge of the world, you can't see that. And I was like, what? It's like, why is there just not one planet? Why is there so many different planets? Do you understand? And the response to these questions are usually about what was the earlier event. That means there's some people alive on this planet, and you go read the history books and you're like, okay, I got an account of what happened, but I don't know the actual intensity of what happened. That means the intensity of reading about a warrior in history is different than how that warrior experienced their era, their life. This world, I'm just waiting to see when human beings are going to be like, yeah, man, it's an unknown place. Like we've been telling ourselves stories. And I don't know how people are confident, right? But I find my confidence with the intensity of responding to what I am and where I am. That means there are some questions that are more important than the opinion of other simulated selves, right? That means there's the question, like, think of it this way. I can wonder about who another person is. I can wonder about who I am. I can wonder about where we all are. And then I can wonder about what is actually moving the moment. And one thing that it's like I can tell you I am certified to say, from the beginning of my life, like any other human being, I have witnessed how moments happen. And it's not if somebody says, is it luck or is it somebody lucky or unlucky, I'll be like, there's like, whoever sees it is a noob. Luck is like that notion is for noobs, right? In actuality, what is going on is that you have a space and there's intelligent activity taking place in this state, and you're wondering about what's directing that intelligent activity. Your intelligent activity, you're like, all right, the idea of me owns me, so it's the free will, right? Free will of myself, ideological self, subjective self, right? Like people are living subjective lives. You say my body, you say my mind, you even say my soul. Who's that my that owns the soul? Do you know what I mean? Like that my is at some point it comes down to being a raw force. I'm like, yo, how come I cannot contain the awareness to an idea in an idea? And I realized because the awareness to the idea is the realization of the rawness of an unknown force. There's some people on this planet, they look at this natural world and they're like, yeah, man, it's going in accordance to natural laws and forces. And, it's like something as if made with an IKEA manual, it's like we know its structure, But in reality, it's like we're in such a hilarious place inside a simulation. Those who are not convinced by reality are further ahead. Sometimes human beings are like, why am I suffering? Why is this happening to me? And all of this. But they don't realize that in reality is an engagement. To me, somebody talking to me, that's communication. But also what happens throughout the day is like how my existence communicated with the existence of everything. It's a force. This whole time I've been thinking on treating myself as an idea. We've been unknown forces in somewhere where we had to start storytelling because it was too shocking to be like, yo, what am I? It's like, imagine our early ancestors were like, what am I looking at? Right? And the answer was like, it's like they had no clue. So they're like, all right, let's tell a story so at least we freak out in an organized way. You know? See, I am in some sense like a traveler in the inner realms. That's a good way of saying it, or more like a pilot. Okay? And I have piloted through various modes of reality. That means in this one physical lifetime of mine, I'm 33 years old. In these 33 years of life, I have traveled so many different states of how the moment can be, and mainly internally inspired, and I've come to a full realization of it. That means I'm that person who, if you ask him, hey man, have you understood your body? I'll be like, yeah. If you ask me, have you understood your mind? I'll be like, yeah. The inner realms, I've understood them. I can legit explain it to anyone forever. Like, it's easy. It's just realizing that it's a space. And it's like a different tech way reality is kept. Okay, in the inner realms, there's flying cars that exist still. That will exist, but in the outer realms, we don't have commercialized flying cars, but we can imagine them anytime. It's like I don't have a Bugatti, but I can imagine a Bugatti. Does that mean I've experienced a Bugatti? I could imagine in some sense flying. Does that mean I've flown like Superman? Does that mean I flew like Superman? No. For me, I am someone who, when I get bored, I don't know how I discovered this in my youth, but when I get bored, I am, it's as if they're like, conceptually are you brave? Not all the time, but contextually, strangely, I am fearless. And I wondered for a long time, why am I so fearless to wonder about views that perhaps are uncharted territory for the human species? And I came into the conclusion that it's something we've all forgotten. You are all explorers of this world. It is a courtesy and luxury and a convenience of us being a spoiled species that we have to have a specific story. It's as if based on the action, the dress code is made known. So in some sense, think of it this way, that it's like your behavior adjusts to the context you enter. That means you enter like a pizza shop, your behavior is adjusted to that. You enter like a nightclub, your behavior is adjusted to that reality. You enter a library, your behavior is adjusted to that reality. For me, it is the advancement of the human species. There's a part of me that has seen. I'm that human being like, it happened, guys. That moment came. It happened. Because it personally happened to me, I can testify, but it has happened for way before I was born. The human species in its inner realms has made contact with the future to the degree that when it comes to the nature of mind, that means to be a self in a physical world is very different. So if I was to explain to you, if you told me, okay, so imagine I had to explain to someone the difference between the outer realms and the inner realms. The inner realms tends to usually be the extension of the outer realms. That means they're strangely connected. It's not like I'm just being a mind here without a body. No, I'm positioned in a physical, biological state. And this biological state has access to information. In front of my eyes, I have access to an external landscape. There is so much. It's as if reality to me sometimes is truth that I didn't need to generate. It was generated before I was born. The value of the planet was generated before I was born. The value of everything, in some sense, seems to have been generated before even existence began. That means what God knew became the mere essence of reality. Do you understand? That means there is something about this world that the way we're telling ourselves a human story, it is not allowing us to actually experience what our state is. What if we reach a point in human history where humans become ultra aware? Now, what does that mean? Ultra aware. Right now, for example, I'm aware of like my body, I can move my hands, but I'm not aware of the cells, the every red blood cell that is moving in my body. Imagine suddenly I became conscious of every blood cell, every part of my body, every movement going on within my body. That would suddenly lead me to be a consciousness that is endlessly being aware of how conscious when you it's like everything's moving. When consciousness like a camera starts recording it, that's where meaning happens. But things, because reality is moving before we move, it has a meaning before we in some sense only opt into our own meaning. Right now it's we're reaching that point where we're going to discover as a species that because we all want to look cool in front of each other, do you understand? The coolest thing that human beings can do is to find the most advanced state and advance reality towards it. You open your eyes in a simulated realm. Oh, well, guess what? You're simulated. That means you're here temporarily. What do you do while you're in existence temporarily? What do you do when you're like a tourist in this existential reality and you're being the live stream version of human history? Your human history being live streamed right now. For me, it seems to be that contexts are occurring alone. That means right now the internet has managed to integrate concepts into a sort of immortalized cyber context. Human beings are behaving in such a ridiculously way more advanced way than other animals that it's not a matter of believing the invisible. Anybody who's ever had this view about that of like they said they tell you to believe in yourself. What is the self? The self is the force of willpower. This moment is arising because the willingness for it is already there. That means there are people who look at life and they're like, why is it just this? And there are other people looking at life and being like, it can't be just this. Like, what am I not seeing? Do you know that if I had seen yesterday, today I would be seeing even beyond that? True advancement is the ability to not fear the context. That means, again, there's a conceptual bravery and there's a contextual bravery. Contextual bravery is like an explorer that decides to see what's beyond the edge of the world. Conceptual bravery is like trying to see beyond the edge of the concept. Think of it this way. It's a massive containment process. That means your body's trying to contain its position, your ego's trying to contain its position. You know, everything in existence is aligning to a position. We're all, in some sense, occupants and tenants of a unknown world that we've gotten to know it so far like this. You know, there's sometimes I don't know. This is kind of like I guess I have like a time traveler's intuition. Do you know? One lecture I gave, I said that I have a time traveler's ego, you know? But I'm saying the time traveler's intuition is being responsible for the future. To me, it seems that every person who's alive, they're employed by their future self. Everybody is living for their future self. Every person who's done any action, good deeds or evil deeds, evil actions or good actions on this planet, it's all been for their future self. Do you know? Or let me say it this way. It has all been, see, I think the human being has access to three modes of life. Like there's three ways you can kind of vibe in the moment. Okay? One way is you're like, all right, I'm going to appreciate what's happened and extract joy from that. Then there's some beings who are like, nah, man, I want to extract joy in the present. And then there are those who want to extract joy from the future. To me, discipline is the side effect of a soul that has, or a being that has noticed something so important, it is redirecting its life. That means you could have someone be the stupidest person and suddenly in an emergency be the smartest person. This world, to me, they're like, yo, why do you have trust issues? I'm like, okay, my body's simulated, my name and personality and my backstory is simulated in language, and everybody is simulating their own meaning to reality. You know what I mean? In this massive simulation inside simulation game, right? It's like, you know what it is? We're like these original beings that have forgotten their original, how they've been commanded in this realm. And so they are, in some sense, moving inside simulations until they come to the realization that if they stop simulating over the simulation, they will begin to realize when you don't touch the simulated reality, what is left. And this is where I can tell you, in the same way when you walk into a building, it gives you a vibe. In the same way, in your inner realms, the ideological context you find gives you a vibe. That means there's been moments where I've stepped into rooms in my inner realms, okay, and I was like, okay, the language of this, if I was to just translate this moment into language, it would be language that is not suitable for the human consciousness. Or in some sense, I'm not authorized to do it. There's been times where I've wanted to say something, and a force within me was like, that's not for you to say. It's destined for someone else to say. Do you understand? We're all playing a part here, and it's all about the effort of expression. That means, what is life? Pretty much from the moment you wake up, how this life force directs itself. Now, a religious person, I'm Muslim, I believe in a system admin beyond the world room. Sometimes it's about the unknown. For me, you're seeing a person who got bored of knowledge, noticed the unknown, also got bored of how the unknown is just unknown, and then in some sense came back to knowledge and realized all knowledge was simulated in the unknown, which is another way of saying we still don't know. Now, revelation is a different matter. Why? Like, for example, what is important to a Muslim? It is not the satisfaction of a shaped entity. Just take that in. Next time you see a Muslim, and you even see a Muslim pray, ask yourself, what are they praying to? And you will see it cannot be shaped. The God has no partner. The system admin has no equivalent. The moderators, it is God's mercy or God's intent. That means, why did Adam and Eve in heaven, a place where they were like, yo man, there's obviously no mistakes we can make here. Do you know they made a mistake? That means, can mistakes be made beyond this world? It seems so. But is there a power that cannot make mistakes? This is where human personality chooses its faction. For me, I feel that it's a very essential part of my life. And they're like, yo man, how do you keep your ego in check? I'll be like, I pretty much don't have one the moment I discovered the presence of a higher power beyond form. To be a Muslim is to have a relationship with the original power of reality. It's like you're done living the simulated life. To get serious now, to advance beyond the simulation, it is God's mercy. This is the end of wisdom, guys. If the end of knowledge is to know that you know nothing, like Socrates, to realize it's unknown, the edge of wisdom is to realize it's a superior will. Because ultimately it's a dance of forces in space. Who are we kidding? You know, that person's like, yeah, man, my name is this, this, this. You know, and the other person's like, yeah, man, my name is that, that, that. You know? And I'm just looking at this and I'm like, forces moving. And in some sense, how does the moment change? Which is another way of saying, how does life force animate for there to be any meaning at all? That means, here's a good question for you. Can there be meaning without change? That means if life was a photograph, not a film, what would it mean? Like, doesn't anybody find it weird that endless formed, infinite formed moments are existing within one formless moment? Like, have we not discovered the original life of the soul yet? Do we still have to be burdened by just an objective existence and a subjective character in a story with a purpose beyond itself? On some level, for me, when I wonder about the true nature of advancement, do you know how the most advanced humans arise? They don't arise because of being like, I just, looked in the mirror and looked at myself and said you were advanced. No. Advancement occurs when you access advanced states. The most advanced state is beyond the language threshold, at least for now, for humans. Now, if somebody experiences beyond the language threshold, you're going to understand my lecture suddenly in a context that you'll totally understand why I speak this way. It's as if they told us to be honest inside a simulation. So have we been, 100% dishonest this whole time by being honest in a simulation? And that's not the case. But in actuality, what's going on is that there is an opportunity for an unknown force through the format of a body object and through the formats or the mediums of subjects, medium of a subject, interact with reality. And for me, do you know what my whole lifetime feels like? It feels like I'm trying to solve this puzzle before I die. That's it. It's as if I'm living my normal life, but at the same time, I cannot ignore the massive unknown depth of reality. They're like, yo, man, some people go up to someone and they're like, yo, you believe in God? How could you? And it's like, excuse me, did we create the world? Did we create ourselves? Is this our house? No. Did we bring ourselves here? No. Are we moving ourselves right now? We think. But that's just an idea trying to own an unknown force. It's the opposite. The unknown is expressing through the known, and it identifies with the known, but it's beyond the known. That means the human intelligence far surpasses and is beyond the human idea. That means there's a way that the intelligence of this moment is present that surpasses any ego. So, right now, let's say 8 billion human beings realized they were temporary. By realizing they were temporary, they started wondering about what the true value of life is. Pretty much when you realize everybody dies at some point, leaves this world, then you're like, whoa, what's the point of me being here? And then life gets interesting because you realize there is so much you don't know yet. And to me, life is a collaboration of a lower power with a higher power. The lower power is conditional, the higher power is unconditional. Or the lower power is finite, the higher power appears infinite to the finite. How does the soul of the moment move? And who's in a better state? You tell me. Someone who every day wakes up and has a living relationship, live relationship with the administrator of this existential system. That means imagine a lower power is which one is more advanced? The lower power that has no, in some sense contacted or been contacted by the higher power, or a lower power that among the lower powers is a higher power. It's like you're like, no, obviously we want to know beyond the context. That's meaning, is that force in human nature that's like, what else? What else is there? Where are we? Do you know, it's like all of history is a reaction to what's going on here. Imagine like a, I don't know, some sort of Queen's accent or something, do you know, or New York or Jersey accent or whatever, right? It's as if like extraterrestrials land on Earth and human beings are so conscious they look at them, they're like, "Excuse me, I'm existing over here." Do you know? Can you imagine like if aliens landed on Earth in a sci-fi abstract hypothetical setting, and we were like, let's have the extraterrestrials speak to, in some sense, the most woke people on the planet. When I say woke, I mean like, you know, ignorant. I don't know how to say this, but if I was to envision what kind of peace could arrive in a world where the beings are so impatient that they are mad about everything, because one of the biggest challenges of being a futurist is that you get to see probabilities of reality in the future, but you can't access it. It's patient. That means to travel in your inner realms through time, it requires incredible patience. And patience means, like a museum, you're going through a moment, but you don't need to touch the moment. That's been my whole life, where I'm like, okay, what rooms am I entering in? What worlds am I contacting? What sort of meaning am I finding to the moment? And do I have to move the moment, or does the moment move itself? Do you know, or is it that behind every natural manifestation there's a divine command? We are more in a commanded universe than we are in what we think is a chaotic, kind of like realm. It's chaos, but chaos is so basic. That means, like, right now, they've glorified evil by creating the notion of supervillains, for example, right? But in actuality, it's like lower world misunderstanding the higher world and therefore kind of going berserk. For me, I ask myself, okay, what are you responsible for throughout the day? And I'm like, all right, I'm responsible for myself. I'm responsible for every let's say member of my family. I'm responsible for my every member of my community and member, like, people, people I know. And then I realize, okay, what else am I responsible? Okay, you're responsible for your nation. Then you're responsible for what? The planet. And then you reach a point where you have the responsibility of being like, yo, man, if 8 billion people didn't know better, and if somehow I knew better, how could we all know better? And what would a world where everybody's advanced in look like? That means after it's like right now, imagine I'm a being, not imagine, but right now I'm a being inspired by my own more advanced life. Okay, but then after I've accessed my most advanced life on Earth, I wonder about what is the most advanced life of the whole species on Earth. That means that's the nature of the human being. Back in the day, they would go find berries and they would bring back, and the whole tribe was like, oh my God, such a thing as berries exist? Like, we didn't know this, you know? And they're like, yeah, man, they're in the bushes there, you know? And their minds were like, it was a revolutionary, historic moment where human primitive tribes found berries. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, in the same way, you find something from a rogue moment and you try to bring it into a global moment. I feel that the word international is an urge within the universally responsible entity. You're responsible for the whole, how the whole moment is being. So we have impatience to deal with, we have madness to deal with, and we have to wonder about peace. Now, there was this poet, he said this about love. His name was Rumi. He said, your task is not to find love or search for love, seek love. Your task is to get rid of all the barriers you have made against it. It could be the case that we're living in such a simulated life that if we were to find the truth, we would not understand it because we're identifying with the simulated. Do you know what it means? It's like you're so opted into a fake world that even if you discover the true nature of reality, do you want to like go beyond this fake world? And the reality is, because we're human, we must care for the human effort. That means there is something within all humans on Earth. Okay? It is our humanity, folks. Try to feel it throughout the day. Try to feel how you're being responsible for what sort of world the future generations find themselves in. If you are cruel, they will find themselves in a world where there's more cruelty. If you are a happy person, the future generations will be more happy. Why? Because in those states, man accesses expression that echoes to the future. So the peace, what sort of peace arrives in a world that's too impatient to, in some sense, notice its actual true value? The peace is a pause. Many moments in my inner realms, this is before I realized I can pause my mind. That means if I'm in a certain state and let's say I'm panicking or nervous or something, in actuality, in all those states, I can pause. Like the human has an ability to pause the moment, which means for a second the ego stops egoing. Anywhere. It's like in my inner realms, I'm egoing somewhere. And you might be like, hey man, where are you egoing? Anyways, folks, I hope this lecture was interesting. Really, the ultimate aim of it is to seek the most advanced state of awareness known to man. You know, I realize that I cannot know my most advanced self until I'm in a most advanced world. The most advanced world will be a world for the most advanced selves of everybody. So I have realized that the smartest action that can be done on planet Earth for humans is every human advancing all humans. How? That's where it's up to how you and the system, how the system admin moves you, and how you decide out of the options presented in your, let's say, existential circumstance. For peace, I have personally, if they're like, have you found peace on Earth? I'll be like, yeah. I found it in the presence of the system admin, where I felt so inferior to this presence that I couldn't be an ego anymore. It's like if this whole time I was like subconsciously praising myself, yeah, man, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. When I realize there's a power beyond human limitation, it's done. That means when you realize there is that which is beyond the imaginable, beyond imagination, it's done. When there's a power beyond human condition, the human condition isn't the end of meaning. So I have found peace, like as how a simulated being has found peace when it has felt it's gotten closer to the system admin, or the system admin has allowed that person to be conscious of the system admin's mercy. That means people are like, yo, why isn't God helping me? You don't understand. God is taking care of reality, has commanded in some sense greatness into the moment. Faith means you're living in a world where what's moving it can be trusted. That means like I trust, like if like what I identify right now is not just my body, is not just my ideas, it's how there's a force present here that with effort and intention and purpose can move, animate. So the peace I have felt is like a peace where you've walked beyond the ego land. You've journeyed beyond ego land. And you've understood that ego land is actually simulation land. And you begin to realize that you are like duality renders the moment being either like it's all true or it's all false. If they say, yo man, it's in between, that doesn't advance things. That means if we are beyond an object, we're not an object. We're not just an object. If we are beyond a subject and an object, we are beyond an object and a subject. We are reaching that era where we're discovering how many more advanced ways there are to look at the moment. Again, in every moment you can feel like if there was another person, another like being in this position, they would have a different view. So how many different views exist? And it's infinite. The challenge is life is not to choose between one or two beliefs. It's that you can technically have infinite viewpoints here to one moment. Like you could look at something from different views. Right? And the issue is because there can be infinite views, what do we choose out of infinity? And this is where the path of the scholar leads to, in some sense, the end of the egoic simulation. The idea of you can go so far, but the piece I'm talking about is the piece of something like a simulated entity which was originally commanded. Upon remembering the original command, its response would be pure faith. For example, in the same way a child has faith in their mother and father, this is why being a parent is a divine responsibility and opportunity. For me, it is about locating the presence of greatness within existence. That means, as a person who was talking about building advanced civilizations, to actually do it, we have to actually discover the advanced power. The most advanced power, the most advanced state is a state that is beyond visible. For example, if I moved at the speed of light, there would be no time. So there would be no image. There would be no content. Intelligence is present not just through form but through the space as well. The space is also a body for the soul, and also the background room, the context of the mind. That means if the concept, you have the concept of the body, the context for the body is the mind. You have the concept of the mind, the context for the mind is the soul. Now the mind is where knowledge is being managed, but the soul is the unknown self's relationship with an unknown world. Think of it like this: that so far, how you know yourself is that your known self's relationship with a known world. But like, do you understand? I'm saying, like, every moment there is a known self and there's an unknown self. There's unknown ways how the moment is being present, and there's unknown ways, right? And some schools of thoughts, they like, this is why I no longer consider myself a spiritual person. Do you understand? Because the mind is a atmosphere, it's a space. Now the mind is a space where reality can move, not restricted and limited to the laws of nature. That means I can imagine myself flying. How can I do that? And how is it that when I imagine myself flying, I don't fall down immediately? That means our imagination is not functioning in accordance to the laws of the physical realm. It's something superior to it. Therefore, destroying the debate, clarifying the debate of, are we more than the physical, is like, yeah. Do you know? There's non-physical management of a physical existence. There's the non-physical experiential yet. You know, like, it's experiential but not physical. I can see a film preview of myself flying into the air, you know, like Superman, but I can not do that in the outer realms. So the outer realms is like a film that you didn't generate. The meaning of external form, like what the world's meaning is beyond your meaning. The world has a meaning that you did not generate. So if you did not generate the meaning, you're in a position to find meaning. Spirituality is still generating meaning. Religion is trying to find meaning. That means it's like a being that has realized the most advanced state is not a human idea. What do you do then? The best path is to start being the most honest moment that you can find in this world. Because without accessing, like a simulated being that has an urge to find its original life, and the piece is discovering that the simulation, before the simulation was present, the original was. We are, according to Islam, we have system admin privileges as users, and there's mods, and there's one of these mods is acting as an anti-human force. But there's still mods, and Islam tells you go directly to the system admin. That means, what kind of truth do you want? If you honestly and truly want truth, it means that everything you have found so far has not given you the feeling of a completed moment. That means there's an incomplete vibe to all efforts in reality, strangely. Like, there's something incomplete about it. It's like this is neither a beastly hell and it's neither an angelic heaven, like a completely inefficient beastly hell and a completely efficient angelic heaven, but it's somewhere in between, where the higher realities and lower realities, we as beings can in some sense express those attributes here. So it's like, by the mere being a soul, you have a position, you have a value to the original source of power of that's the original power that simulated this world. It's like you know the system admin because the system admin created you and commanded your soul into being. Do you know what, in Islamic view, they don't have past lives, but before this life on earth, all souls are in this place called Alam al-Arwah, which means the world of the souls. And in there, souls of this, there's a ranking system similar to like military. That means Islam has this view that before the soul enters this realm, it has a rank. And souls of the same rank, they know each other, or souls destined to, in some sense, their ranks to align in some sense. So what it is that your soul, it's like there is a, it's like, it's strange. It's like technically it's kind of like a past life, but it's not the life of an individual. It's like in the middle of your soul's life, you suddenly now have a body's life and a mind's life to deal with. That means you're this unknown force that is moving technically unknown objects in a known way. You are, in some sense, giving meaning to the meaningless through a method. But what is truly present, it's way more unknown than how we've known ourselves. So what do you do with the unknown? You just, the best thing you can do is just be honestly present. I'm waiting for that day where, just like courage, advancement flows through the veins of the human species. To me, the greatest thing I have discovered in this life is that every moment can advance to the most advanced state and value. The most advanced value is beyond this world. So in this life, what is the strategy? The strategy is we live the most advanced, we try to be the most advanced self around the most advanced version of others in the most advanced place, in the presence of the most advanced power. It's like I can see all reality advancing towards a state where it can, in a unified way, it can acknowledge its advancement. That means it's like from an original state, a simulation was simulated, and this whole simulation, including everything in the cosmos, will return back to the original state. So what's the point of everything happening now? It's more like a performance in front of a presence beyond this realm, and it's honestly for review. Every moment of your life, even me this moment right now, I'm being reviewed, and everything from my feelings and thoughts, even thoughts I don't share, they're being logged in the divine surveillance state. The divine surveillance state has the way it is it's in the realm of the unseen. God knows, but to me, it's like the answer to the question of what's looking through the eyes of people. It's more than people. The divine surveillance state is within the whole moment. It's like the state is under the surveillance, the whole state of existence. But it's under surveillance, not like we can comprehend as if technological surveillance. It's kind of like your soul is unhidden in the presence of the original power. Your mind may hide your inner life to the outer life, but the outer life will confront you, and the inner life will have to respond at some point. Because the answer to the question is who we are, seems to me it has to do with how far we are aware of reality. To me, there is no such thing as smart and stupid people. It's pretty much those, like, who has the most awareness to the moment. Awareness is where the game is at, not knowledge. That means I rather be part of a team of very aware people than to be in a team of people who are just knowledgeable. For me, it's always like this. Anybody who wants to work with me, you need to have an ability to be an eagle on a branch, and you need to have an ability to fly into the sky and see the whole forest at once. That's the peace. That means anybody who's suffering from an impatient ego, like, you know what kind of vibe that is? I'm telling you, be graceful and let the moment go first. You will be fascinated by the result. Even though we are a life force, doesn't mean we have to force our way through reality. Reality, the highest, classiest thing is to be in the presence of grace. Gracefulness is the hot epitome of class. The most classiest souls are souls that in some sense understand that a peaceful state accesses way more than the madness of an ego that can't let the moment go. And ultimately, in the efforts of building an advanced civilization, man will understand the most advanced power. Do you know what that means? In Islam, they say, like, the purpose of life is to get close, get near to God. Okay, and there's like 3 levels to that. The first level, you just know this world has a system admin. The second level is you're living that life, which means you're noticing the administration of the system in every moment. You're no longer in doubt of the system admin. Experientially, you know it. You're notice everything you're seeing. You see how moments happen, and what range of meaning the moment has from free will, and how much of it is happening by that system administrative force. The third is when you have, in some sense, reached the height of angels, where you have understood that if this is a commanded universe, the commander's will is the defining component of how manifestation moves. To me, it's no longer about, yo man, are you trying to find God? I'm like, no, I have this view that death is when we meet the system admin, or we become aware of how the system's being administered beyond how we were aware of it in this life. And to completely know then how much of what moved in the moment was our mind, and how much of it was the willingness or the intention of soul, which in some sense, you know why human beings felt divine in following divine commandments? Because the human soul is the amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the command of the system admin. That means moments have a value before any free will agency can do anything in that moment. They're like, it's like programmed before we were a program that could kind of shift the program a little. Anyways, the most advanced power and the way you get out of this simulation is by noticing and realizing and establishing a relationship with the system administrator of this realm. The system admin is beyond all form. Moderators just have certain authority over form, but you must go directly to the system admin. And if Adam and Eve forgot the original authority and they listened to a simulated entity, a simulated reality, and now their descendants are cast into a simulated reality. The whole realm is a simulated reality. So it's obvious that it's the forgetting of the original power that makes one become a lost soul. And it's like, how is the soul lost? Because the world it's in is not the world of its original being. That means, can we call this world home? Or are we guests of an unknown place, unknown setting? It's fascinating to me. And of course, again, God knows best. Thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful.